We are going to be talking about neurodivergent support and natural solutions. And I have to tell you, there's a lot of times where people will tell me that even as adults, they'll say, I just got diagnosed with autism. A lady told me that probably about a month ago, and she's between 20 and 30, and she just got diagnosed. I have women who are already have children, and they find out they have ADD, or well, now they only say ADHD, which I have kids who are ADD and ADHD, and I do differentiate because my one child, you would never think that he had an attention disorder because if you're saying hyperactive attention disorder because he's not hyperactive at all. He is very chill. Nevertheless, he's very distractible in some ways. And so his follow through is out to lunch. So people will exhibit things in a variety of different ways. So tonight we're going to be talking about neurodivergent support and natural solutions. And I am on YouTube, and that is my website there, and there is the Facebook group. So feel free to contact me. And this is for educational purposes. So autism. Autism is referred to as a spectrum, like they'll say autism spectrum disorder, because somebody can be extremely high functioning and appear not to need supports, and sometimes they still do need supports. They may be able to put them in place themselves. And then there's people, of course, that you have seen or met that have autism that need a lot of support. And that maybe they're nonverbal, they can't maneuver things themselves, they certainly can't prepare their own food or anything, maybe they can't even dress themselves. So it is a huge spectrum that people can fall anywhere in and of that. But that falls with a lot of different things, doesn't it, in life? I mean, even how tall we are or short we are, right? Or whatever our sizes, our ability to run fast, all different things in life. Things fall on a spectrum. We're all not the same. So common traits with autism can be differences in communication or social interaction. People who are autistic may perceive social cues differently or not pick up social cues. You might be inferring that something is a certain way, and you expect that, like, they would know with the way I looked at them that I don't want them to walk in the house with their shoes on or whatever it may be. And maybe you kind of gestured toward the basket or something, and, you thought that they would just do it, and you didn't want to tell them to take off their shoes. They're not going to get that. They will need to be told, hi, we don't wear our shoes in the house here. Would you put your shoes in the basket? So um, social cues that someone else might pick up on, they're going to be less likely to do that. Strong interests or being very focused on hobbies or strong interests. And, when we look at these different neurodivergent, we're only looking at three uh, issues or whatever you want to call that. You're going to see a lot of crossover. Okay. So, but strong with their interests or their hobbies, like very, very to the point of being fixated, though, a lot of times, especially if they're lower functioning, they tend to be more overly fixated. Repetitive movements or gestures. Okay. And this was one, I'll just say a classic one for people who really struggle with their autism, or are very profound with their autism. Will do like a flapping. They'll flap like they're going to fly. Okay. So that's something that is common, but it could be other things. It could just be a tapping or rubbing their leg, or something, or playing with their hair. It could be anything repetitive like that. Also repetitive with routines, washing their hands, different. It could be different for different people. Sensitive to sounds, light, textures, taste, or touch. A lot of times, people who are autistic will not like certain food textures, and it could be different for everybody. But they might not like things that are very mushy, or that are very stringy like celery or something that they find unpleasant, and it'll really turn them off to the food no matter what. So or a fabric, a certain fabric might feel very unpleasant to them. They'll be like, oh no, I can't wear that. No, I can't wear that. Or uh, they might not like the feeling of the zipper on jeans and be like, oh, no, I'm not wearing jeans. I don't want that zipper. So they have a strong craving for predictability and structure. So autism is not it's not an illness. Um, it is a different way of perceiving and experiencing the world around them. And being that our world, as you all would remember when you went to school, everyone was all expected to sit with 2 feet on the floor at a desk in a chair. Everybody's all pigeonholed, and this is what you're supposed to do. So, people who are neurodivergent, whether it's autistic ADHD or other types of neurodivergent styles, they're going to have more difficulty fitting into those molds that they're expected to fit into. So, is there another one in between? No. Okay, supporting the autistic person naturally. So, it's a different way of processing. Um, like I said, everybody's unique. Um, Support works best when it's individualized. So you can't expect what works for one is going to be like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do. Maybe a teacher at a school or maybe a school in and of itself is going to say, this is how we're going to help all of the autistic children. They're all not going to fall into the same basket. So, respecting and being in tune with their individual needs is very important, whether it be an autistic child or adult, because sometimes this is going to have to do with maybe you find out that, a sister or a niece or a nephew that's grown gets a diagnosis in adulthood, and that um, you can learn how to maneuver the different things. You're like, oh my gosh, no wonder they always struggled like that. This is ways we can deal with that now that we know that they actually are neurodivergent in this way. So observe patterns, see different triggers that might make them feel uncomfortable, and different things that help them to feel calmer and connected. So an autistic child who loves trains. And so a lot of them have, autistic people, just like everybody else, have different talents, different strengths, different sources of joy, different things that they're drawn to. And they'll excel in different careers because of the ability to do certain things really well. So in life, instead of we all do need to learn how to do certain things, right? We all need to learn how to pay at the store and count out the change. We all need to learn how to have manners at the dinner table. We all need to do, there's certain things we all need to learn how to do, but everybody doesn't have to learn chemistry and calculus. There's people who are going to really dive into that with 2 feet and do phenomenally. And there may be autistic people who like numbers is their thing. That is it. And they are phenomenal at it. If you ever expected them to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, it's not going to happen. But you want them to be a chemist or a mathematician, and they might be over the top about that. So we need to look at whatever the areas are that a person struggles with, help them through it to a point that they need to be, and then focus on the things that they excel in and help them to do that even better and to enjoy that and to flourish with that. And that goes with not just people who are autistic, but the rest of us too, right? So, okay. So they can have a strong attention to detail, an excellent memory for facts and dates, um, deep focus and concentration on subjects that they enjoy, honesty, directness, very honest, very direct. If you say, I don't know if I should wear this dress to the wedding. Do you think it looks okay on me? They're not going to say, oh, it looks wonderful when it doesn't. If it doesn't look good, they're going to tell you it doesn't look good, which is really awesome because you don't want to end up going to your event looking terrible, thinking that you looked great, right? So that is phenomenal. Can be original thinkers, can really pull things out of left field in a good way and come up with maybe not the most obvious answer or solution to something and be able to really run with that. Ability to notice patterns that others miss. To have very strong spatial thinking, to be able to see, before you even carry that dresser all the way upstairs to go, that's not going to fit there. We don't even need to carry it up. And you get out the tape measure and you go, well, lo and behold, it's not going to fit. So that, really wonderful attributes can be very logical, very analytical, great with problem solving, extremely loyal, and very dependable. Can have a passion for learning, especially about favorite topics, ability to think independently rather than follow the crowd. They're going to dance to their own tune. Can be very persistent, very determined, a strong sense of fairness and justice, and a talent. They can be very talented with music and math and technology and animals or design. So when we talk about different supports we can use, so a lot of times they might feel overwhelmed, and so going to sleep at night, you might like a very nice light blanket, and maybe you might like I'm not for them, but an electric blanket. And you're like, oh, it's nice and light. They're going to be more likely to feel comfortable with the weighted blanket, with the comfort of the heaviness of the blanket. Might like noise canceling headphones because too many different noises of different types, the clattering in the kitchen, along with somebody's radio in another room and the truck going by outside and somebody else having a conversation downstairs and they hear the whole thing and it just sounds like, fruit salad to them. It's just too much all together. So noise canceling headphones can be really good. Fidget items, a little fidget spinner they used to have, or different fidget items can be very good. Swings, rocking chairs, rocking can be very comforting. So to have a quiet area in the home that they can go and just like not hear everything and just take a space, take a break. And I am not that way at all. So my one son, he will need to have space to just chill and calm down. And I don't take that cue unless he says to me, Mom, I need to take space right now. And I'm like, oh, you do? Okay, no problem. And this happened with, within the past few days. And he was like, there was a lot of people, and he was like, I'm going to do this by myself. And I said, oh, well, you should have some help. And he was like, no, I'm going to do this by myself. And so then someone came along, and I felt bad that he was doing it by himself because I always like to have company. So I sent someone to go help him. He was like, I wanted to do it by myself because I needed to be alone. And I was like, oh, hit me over the head with a board. I just like, so, so to pick up on those cues and to encourage the person to say, spell it out for me, because that's not how I roll. And I want to respect that. So, some essential oils that really help with this could be vetiver. Vetiver is very, very calming, just really, takes all the chatter out of everything and is really great for if you're trying to go to sleep at night and you have that background noise in your head. What I mean is, I'm laying there and all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, I didn't make a list for the supermarket tomorrow. And oh, I better remember that I need to go to the such and such, or I need to get that letter in the mailbox. All these things are popping in my head, right? And not the time for it, right? I just turned out the light and I'm in bed and I should be going to sleep. So I'll get up and I'll write down a little list. Okay, so and I'll put it next to my bed. Now I know I won't forget because it's on the list. But vetiver on the bottom of the feet or diffuse it in the room can really help with that, all those different things that are popping in your head at once and can really help somebody if they need to cancel out all the chatter. So then balance. Balance is really a wonderful grounding blend, and that is very good. And either one of these can be diffused as well as used topically. So, okay. Encouraging communication. So, when you're talking about autistic children or adults, um, uh, there's different ways of communicating, and they might prefer different ways. Speech, sign language, picture boards, communication devices, depending, of course, whether, what difficulty the child or the adult actually would have with communicating would have something to do with that. But one of my children, when they were 2, 3, 4 years old. Actually stopped around 4, but almost completely signed everything. And I mean, like everything. He could tell the story of the fox and the hound in sign language when he was 3 years old. So he really preferred communicating with sign language. And we had a friend who was blind, and she thought he was completely unable to communicate. And she told me after he became verbal that she was worried he would never communicate with anybody. And I was like, oh my gosh, he was communicating all along. She just couldn't see it. So if they are not comfortable with speech, using sign language is a really great to encourage. They might prefer that and it might be more comfortable. Um, give a person more time to respond. Don't expect an immediate answer. They might need to think about it or process it, and avoid forcing eye contact. Now, for socialization, you may want to encourage the child, if it's a child, to look at the person and say hello, but not to pressure them to keep looking at a person. If they, if that's uncomfortable for them, they look, they said hello, Mrs. Johnson, and then they might need to look down or away or whatever because they feel uncomfortable and that feels pressure to them. That's okay. You can work with it and there can be a happy medium. So some things to use would be wild orange. Wild orange is a very encouraging. Wild orange and peppermint are phenomenal for helping to motivate. We also have the Motivate essential oil, which helps to motivate, and that is very citrus and pepperminty also. So, and then frankincense. Frankincense is very good for calming and creating a very focused environment. It's very good for cognitive function, and it's also very anti-anxiety. So, both of those are really, really good tools, and the peppermint also. Helping the child or adult to express themselves, where they're at and their feelings, and to express what their needs are, and to let them know, like, it's okay if you need to say, hey, I need to go take 10 minutes and be by myself. Like that's okay. And it's actually even better if they can say it, because then people go like, oh, okay, they're taking 10, not just like, where'd they go? Are they okay? What happened? So that's really good to encourage that communication. Um, Autism and ADHD, um, as far as emotional regulation. So helping the child notice their feelings and put a name to them, and to be able to say, oh, I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling tired, and I'm feeling cranky because I'm not supposed to be feeling tired now, but I am feeling tired. So to be able to say that, you know what, I'm feeling tired right now. Um, and if they're feeling upset or angry or pressured, to be able to have some tools that they can use. And we talked last week about breathing techniques and to benefit the vagus nerve. So the breathing techniques that we talked about last week would be very beneficial to use in this type of a situation also. So, and it's a counted breath work. And so it would be in for 4 and out for 8 is one of them. There's a few different ones, and I'm going to be posting that tomorrow. I was going to do it today, but I'm going to be posting it tomorrow because I was busy working on this PowerPoint today. And so you'll be able to look at the breath work that could be applied in these situations. Counting, maybe just counting in their head, like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 can really help a person. Um, as opposed to counting forward, the counting backwards really helps a person to um, train their brain away from the situation that was making them uncomfortable, as opposed to counting upwards, which doesn't really do that. Squeezing a pillow or something. There's those little uh, they're like a toy. They use them to exercise the hands also, but they're also something that someone could squeeze if they're feeling anxious. And they come in all different shapes. I used to have one in the shape of a doTERRA bottle, and they gave out at one of our conventions. So taking a break in a calm space, and to model and train calm behavior and to speak in a gentle tone. So, to sit with the child and to mirror the behavior and say, when I feel calm or when I feel anxious, it helps me to take my hands and to clasp my hands together and put them on my lap. And that helps me to calm or to give them whatever it is that could be tools that they could focus on, even if it's not necessarily a calming behavior. But if they're thinking about clasping their hand and putting it on their lap, their focus is coming away from what's agitating them. So, suggestions as far as essential oils to diffuse is wonderful when someone is trying to emotionally regulate, especially if it's in the home. So, lavender and vetiver together are phenomenal. They're really wonderful. Lavender and wild orange together can be a wonderful option also. And talking about these strategies when they're not feeling stressed can help to prepare them for when they are feeling stressed, especially if they're going to a new situation. You can prepare them ahead of time. There may be a lot of people there, but at Aunt so and so's house, I talked to her already, and you can go into the den and sit in there to calm down if you need to, and I'll show you where it is, and to just prepare them ahead of time for different situations. So, this is something that is across the board, whether the child is dyslexic or they have ADHD or whether they have autism, offer whole foods and regular meals. So don't necessarily pressure that they eat everything, but if you take a look at what's being served and if you think about what the foods are there for. So let's say you usually put out Um, you're going to put out bread and spaghetti squash and a meat sauce and a salad, and you put everything on the table at once. Well, if you put everything on the table at once, so many times kids and young people will go, even adults though, I should say, will go right for the bread and not go for the other things. And then they'll put the salad on the plate too, but they never get to the salad because they fill up on all the other things. So to instead put out the raw veggies, the salad first, and then put out the next foods next, and maybe put the bread out on the table toward the latter part of the meal so they're not filling up on the things that are not as beneficial. So to keep those things in mind, watch for foods that worsen behavior or upset stomach. So if the person has digestive difficulties, We definitely want to take a look at that and maybe even do an elimination diet, even if it's stomach upset or even behavior, because there are foods that actually can trigger difficult behaviors. And that does not, sometimes people will say you don't want to try to fix somebody who is neurodivergent. They process differently, and that's okay. But there are certain aspects that we do want to try to fix. We want to fix um, difficult behaviors that upset them. So when they feel upset and can't handle it, we want to help them to be able to handle situations. If their stomach gets upset or dysregulated a lot, we want to help them to feel good and to not have digestive distress, right? So those are things we do want to fix. Make sure that the meals include healthy protein, healthy fats, fruits, vegetables, and plenty of water. Now, when I say a meal, you should not be drinking water during the meal because it can hinder digestion. We should be drinking our water between meals, um, prior to 20 minutes before the meal and at least 20 minutes after the meal. We want our body to be able to process the food appropriately. If you need a lot of liquid to get the food down, you're not chewing enough because you should not be washing the food down. Okay. Um, Keep excessive sugar, artificial flavors, colors, preservatives out of the diet. They can be triggers. So, um, essential oil suggestions for digestion would be ginger, and we can make a roller bottle with the ginger and apply that on the stomach. We can also put a little bit into some seltzer water and drink that. That's phenomenal. Peppermint um, depends on if you're talking a little baby, this would not apply. So you can use peppermint at any age, toddlers and all on up. Um, Under 1 year olds, we don't use peppermint. It's too strong for them. So, but we could use that for nausea, except when we really need to digest. And sometimes that's just you just want to go right for the digest and skip over the peppermint. Okay, so many autistic children do have digestive sensitivities, strong food preferences, and different allergies and intolerances to different foods. So that is something to be aware of. Also, going off the board with different ways of preparing foods can really help with the strong food dislikes. So, sleep. Sleep can be an issue. And when somebody is feeling overstimulated and anxious, having a calming bedtime routine can really make a big difference. Keeping the bedtime routine as similar as possible each night. And of course, sometimes there might be other things going on in the house. Maybe some people are, go out on Thursday nights to Bible study or whatever. Um, but keeping things similar as much as possible so it can be expected. And even if, there are those times where things are a little different, when you get back in the house, you go, okay, well, we're going to be home in about 20 minutes. And when we get in the door, we're going to go straight upstairs and brush our teeth. We'll get out our pajamas and then we'll read our story like we usually do and fill them in on what's going to happen. Um, Reduce screens at least 1 hour before bed. Way more than that. Way more than that. The only exception would be if you're talking about a high schooler who needs to finish up that last little bit of homework, you know, and you have no choice other than to let them on the computer to finish it up. Other than that, if it's entertainment, yeah, I would say at the minimum 2 hours before bed. Um, Use dim lighting and quiet activities when it's time to start getting toward the bedtime routine. Create a calming bedtime routine in general. Diffuse lavender before bed or serenity, so that the it just calms the senses and help someone to feel that feeling of, yeah, I'm ready to go to bed instead of still feeling wide awake. So, when the lights are dimmer, our body can start to sense, well, it may be time for us to start make melatonin soon, which helps us with sleep. Poor sleep can cause a variety of issues in and of itself, behavioral issues, um, anxious feelings, sensory issues. So that's really important. Now, ADHD can be grouped into three types. So predominantly the inattentive type with trouble focusing, trouble listening, trouble with follow through or staying organized. One that is predominantly hyperactive and an impulsive type, constant moving, fidgeting, interrupting, acting without thinking, going to open the van door and pulling it out instead of pulling the handle out and back and literally pulling the handle off of the vehicle. Um, Not that I ever had anyone do that, but so just impulsive, acting quickly, um, and then a combined type where they're inattentive and hyperactive at the same time. And so we have our ADHD. ADHD is not the same. It's not laziness. It's not poor parenting, and it's not a lack of intelligence. The brain manages attention and self-control and energy in a different way. So many people with ADHD have many strengths, very curious, inquisitive, enthusiastic, excellent at problem solving, can be really great leaders, especially with that awesome enthusiasm. So, but at the same time, they can have difficulty staying focused, staying to task, finishing tasks once they start them. They get to a certain point and they're like, yeah, well, I'm done with this. And so trying to get them to finish um, might be better to say, yeah, it looks like it's a good spot for you to stop right now and take a little break for about a half an hour and then we'll finish it then. So instead of being like, no, say, oh yeah, it looks like a good time to stop for a break and letting them know, yes, we will be coming back to this, but um, yes, I can see that you've had enough. So, have difficulty remembering instructions. So, writing the instructions down is really important and numbering them. Like, don't just write them, number them or at least letter them, A, B, C, D, have them so that they're clear so they can look. One, do this. Two, do that. Three, do the other. They'll have trouble with sitting still. So if they want to stand at the table and, do their work, uh, okay, um, waiting their turn. They may have trouble with waiting their turn. Um, so see if you can find something to help them with waiting their turn, depending on what the situation is. So, thinking before acting and to process that with them. You know, you see them about to do something, you go, wait, what do you think is going to happen if somebody does that thing. Pours that iced tea without taking the lid off when it's a full container. And there used to be this container that when the kids were little we had, and if it was full and you poured it and you didn't take the lid off and pour slowly, the lid would just pop off and everything would all pour out. So, but to to talk to them and say, hold on, let's see what do we think would happen with this? Do you think this is going to work? Dyslexia. Well, um, I have six children and three of them are dyslexic, and two of them have ADHD. So, um, people with dyslexia will see letters and words reversed. So it will take them not longer than usual to be able to learn how to read. And they're going to be writing things backwards a lot of times. We have a very infamous dyslexic person in our neighborhood here. and who works down at the garage about a half a mile away. And I know because they hung the sign that says tires for sale backwards. And and I can't believe that a week later they haven't noticed, but they still didn't notice. So I thought that was funny. Um, so I had to point it out to my son who drove past it multiple times and is dyslexic and did not notice it. Uh, so, um, but they can have trouble sounding out words because the letters are not in the right place. They can have trouble reading. They read more slowly than expected. Um, Growing up, we had to share readers in school, and the person whoever I was buddied with always read twice as fast as me. I never got to find out what the other half of the story was. I only read every other page because I was too embarrassed to say I'm not done reading that. So they'll mix up letters, mix up sounds because they see the letters as mixed up. Difficulty with spelling because they're not seeing the words appropriately. Trouble remembering sight words because they're not seeing it as it's written. They may avoid reading and say they don't like reading because it feels frustrating. And it's because of how the brain is processing the letters that they're seeing. And it's not a lack of effort, it's not laziness. It's that they're seeing things differently, and that's what is hanging them up in being able to move forward with that. So repetition, 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 reading out loud, allow them. A number of years ago, it was a thing in public school. Don't let kids read with their finger. Don't let kids put a piece of paper under the line they're reading. They don't need those crutches. They should just be able to read without it. In a perfect world, that's fine. But for a dyslexic person, reading along with the finger across the page is a huge help. Absolutely encourage them to do that. Give them a 3x5 card and let them move it down as they're reading. Major, major help. So these things could be really, really good. Some other things you can do if a child is dyslexic is take a box, okay, that you can maybe get at like the dollar store or something, and pour some sand in there. You can get it at like Home Depot or whatever, and have them write their letters A, B, C. And so they'll look at a letter that you have in front and you'll flip over to the next letter and they'll copy that one. And that way they're seeing it, they're saying it, and they're feeling the sand move to that letter. And that will help to solidify the direction and what that letter looks like. So that can be very, very helpful. Um, so they can be very creative. They can be big picture thinking people, great at problem solving, have a wonderful imagination, and love doing hands-on learning. So teach with sight and sound and touch and movement together. Trace the letters in sand or shaving cream or rice. Um, so saying the sounds out loud while they're writing them is important. And they may not be able to do that at school if they go to school, but they can do it when they're home. Using colored letters or blocks or flashcards, manipulatives are great. And the oils to use would be frankincense. Rosemary is great to use with the frankincense. Lemon is great. So you can couple the lemon with the frankincense and the rosemary. Fabulous. Adaptive for calming because they tend to get frustrated when they cannot do what they know that everyone else is doing. So adaptive can be very beneficial. And focus is the children's blend. And that comes in a roller bottle and that they can take with them and apply, teach them to apply it to the back of their neck and their wrists. Read aloud to them. And if you can give them a book too or a copy of it, that's even better because then they can see the words as you're reading them. But read aloud and then hand them the book every now and then and say, would you like to read the next paragraph? and then they can give it back to you. A paragraph is enough that maybe they'll read the paragraph and that was enough work for them and they need a break, but they'll get to hear the stories and hear the logic, and then you discuss it with them. And they can do a lot of their learning in an auditory way. So, using audiobooks is fabulous. Choose topics that the child enjoys. Wild orange and lavender, lavender for calming, while wild orange is for its uplifting um, attributes. So, let me see what time it is, and I'll tell you. My one son, tell you who taught him to read. Ray Charles taught my one son how to read. And so, once upon a time, oh goodness, quite a few years ago now, and he was my son Eric was really struggling with reading. He was 7. He was really struggling, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take him to the library. We have a ton of books at home, but I'm going to take him to the library and let him pick out whatever he wants, because he's not really wanting to read anything here. So maybe he'll get excited there. And everything he looked at and he pointed to was stuff that was too difficult for him. And the things that I was pointing out were things that he was 7, and they were really geared more for a 5-year-old, early reader, someone who's, reading a couple words per page. And he didn't want any of that. So he finally looked over to where the junior books were for like grades 5 and 6. And he saw this book and he rushed over to it, picked it up and hugged it and went, "This is the book. This is the one I want to read." And it was a biography of Ray Charles. And I was like, "Eric, you know, maybe we could read that one another time. Why don't we pick one of these books?" And I tried to encourage him to not get that book because it was going to be too hard for him. He couldn't read that. And he was reading on a first grade level at best. And and so I tried to sway him away from it, and he wanted no parts of putting that book down. He wanted to take it with him. So finally, I thought, you know what? It's free. Like we just take it with, we return it in 2 weeks. No big deal. Like why am I even uh having this conversation? Let me just let him get what he wants to get, and we'll figure it out from there. So we checked out the book. He was so excited. We got home and I'm making dinner. He was sitting on the chair in the middle of the kitchen, right next to me, because I was at the stove. And now he knew the sounds of the letters, so he knew that A said ah and B said ba and, R said right? And he started sounding out this book. And I, word for word, reading about Ray Charles because he was that determined. He loved Ray Charles's music, and his older brothers would play it, and he just wanted to read about Ray Charles so bad that he learned how to read by reading that book because of his determination. So don't be surprised that when they want something bad enough that they will make it happen. So strengths and phonetic skills. Practice letter sounds every day. Focus on 1 or 2 sounds at a time. Use rhyming games and word families, grouping them together. And that's a really good one because when you can see that, when they can see that boat and coat both have the same letters, and when you point things out, like, oh, I don't know, that the bubble of the R faces its friends. That, pointing out different things about which direction the letters go, that it, not that it points to the left or it points to the right. Don't even try that. It won't work. But that it points to where the other letters are, not away from them, and things like that helps them to remember. Peppermint is really great for alertness, and frankincense is really great for focus. So when you put the two together, they're a phenomenal combination. Dyslexic children will need more repetition and practice when it comes to letters, but they may have wonderful, wonderful memory when it comes to other things. I used to read Christopher and Eric. I would read to them from the same science book, and Eric was always very interested in science, and Christopher was not very interested in science. And so Eric would